record of policing the executive branch and conducting oversight to guard against these sorts of abuses.
You've been critical of Republicans, critical of the Bush administration. If not Bob Barr as president in 2009, would this country be better off with a President McCain or a President Obama?
That's really a Hobson's choice that I certainly wouldn't make, because I think each one of them has strengths and weaknesses, but in both cases the weaknesses in terms of liberty in America far outweigh the strengths in different ways. I think on some of these civil liberties issues that we're talking about, for example, Senator Obama would clearly be preferable to Senator McCain. Senator McCain seems to be very much in lockstep with the current Bush administration in terms of believing that if a president dons the hat of the commander-in-chief in their own mind, that means they can do anything they want without being constrained by Congress or the courts. I mean, a very dangerous philosophy that the Bush administration has practiced and which Senator McCain seems to buy into. In other areas, such as economic and financial policy, while both the Democrat and Republican nominees are big government candidates, I think clearly Senator McCain would be not quite as big government as Senator Obama. So each one has their problems and their threats to liberty.
Let's talk about a Bob Barr administration. What would it look like?
It would look very much like nothing this country has ever seen before. It would be an administration that from day one would practice what it preaches, which is something very different than we see in Washington, generally speaking. For example, with regard to spending, while one cannot immediately gut a $3.1 trillion budget, which is what the Bush administration has sent to the Congress, and Congress, at least one House, if not both of them, has passed. I would begin to immediately set the example in the executive office of the President to order an immediate cut of at least 10% in the executive office of the President, followed by at least two messages to the Congress, which Congress has never heard before, as far as I can tell. One, you may send a piece of legislation to President Barr that purports to raise the ceiling on the national debt, but it will be vetoed. And if you send another one, it will be vetoed. Now, you may try and override that veto, and if you succeed, you know, the line will have been drawn, and the American people know exactly and precisely who the big spenders are, the anti-freedom spenders in Washington. They're on Capitol Hill.
On the spending issue, are you different than John McCain?
Very much so. John McCain talks a good game. But if you listen carefully to what he's saying, all he's talking about, really, all he's committing himself to is nibbling at the edges of that humongous, more than $9 trillion debt, $3.1 trillion budget, multi-hundred billion dollar deficit. He's not talking about cutting it in any substantial way. He's talking about taking earmarks out of the earmark process, but he's not even talking about cutting all of that spending. He's simply saying treat it as an appropriation. He's not even talking about cutting out any federal agencies, departments, or offices, and certainly Senator Obama is not either. I not only would talk about it, but would do everything I can to move Congress very clearly in the direction of starting to cut back the number and size of these federal offices, agencies, and departments.
What did your years up on Capitol Hill as a House member teach you about the presidency?
They taught me that the presidency, like any office that is clothed with a great deal of power, always wants more. It never has enough. There has not been, certainly in modern times, any president that has come into that office of either party, Republican or Democrat, and viewed the power that they inherit as a new president as a ceiling. They always look at it as a floor and want to build on it. And that's the insidious danger of allowing, for example, a President Clinton or a President Bush to have certain powers because he might be of your party. People forget that the next president or the president after that will not be a president that you or your party would support, but they're going to have those same powers and they're going to build on them.
In this campaign, people talk a lot about experience. What experience do you have to be President of the United States?
We've touched on a number of those things already that I think are very relevant to serving as president. I have very significant substantive experience in foreign affairs. In addition to having spent 8 years with the CIA, I have 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's degree in international relations. I've traveled extensively overseas, both as a private citizen, as an attorney, and as a member of Congress. I think that is very important. Also, having served in the Congress of the United States for 8 years and having served very actively on key committees, such as the Judicial Committee, which deals with the very nature of the relationship of people to government, it's given me a very, very profound appreciation for the size, the scope, the power of government, and how to rein it in. And finally, the background that I bring as a former United States attorney, having been appointed by President Reagan, confirmed by the Senate, and served close to 4 years as a U.S. attorney. It also has given me a very profound appreciation and understanding of our judicial system with the Department of Justice, and here again, a very clear appreciation of how much power government has, that it doesn't need that much power.
How much time are you spending running as the Libertarian nominee versus your day job?
100%. My day job and my evening job are now serving as the Libertarian Party's nominee for president. The time that I spend in my office in Atlanta is spent working on matters for and with the campaign. The time that I spend on the road is talking with groups, meeting with people, raising money for the campaign, and assisting with the ballot access effort of the Libertarian Party, which is very important to our effort.
Walk us through a typical campaign day on the trail.
A typical campaign day on the trail would be to get on an airplane, hopefully on time, hopefully a flight not canceled, as the one that we had earlier today. Meet with individuals to talk about the campaign, meet with an editorial board, have a luncheon with a local party or a meetup group, followed by 1 or 2 speeches of substance, for example, to a group that might be interested in the libertarian philosophy, or maybe just a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club, and then followed in the evening by usually a reception of some sort, either a fundraising reception or a meetup group or both.
And when you're not campaigning, what do you do for fun?
Well, it doesn't leave a lot of time just for fun. I do enjoy campaigning in many respects. There's a lot of fun in campaigning. It's very hard work as well, certainly. But the thing that I enjoy trying to do most if I'm not out campaigning, working at the office, is simply spend some quiet time with the family, with my wife, with our kids and our grandkids.
Before we let you go, how many states have you been to so far? Do you plans to go to all 50?
We do plan to go to all 50. I couldn't tell you exactly how many we've been to, but we also know, as a third party, and we do intend to make this a very competitive 3-way race, we have to prioritize our efforts. So we are prioritizing our early effort to focus on those areas where independent and libertarian-leaning voters are in greater numbers, more active, more involved, and so forth. So the Mountain West states, for example, would be fertile ground. A couple of our southern states, down in Georgia, where I am, for example. Some of the Northeast states, where there are independent voters that have manifested themselves.
Bob Barr, Libertarian nominee for president. We thank you for your time.
Thank you, Greta.
Later in the week, Congressman Barr headed to Nevada for a series of campaign events, including an appearance at Freedom Fest, an annual gathering of libertarian-minded activists and intellectuals. He next goes to Oklahoma. This weekend, the Green